Hi, this is Jim Valvis, and I'm going to be doing a talk today. It's going to be a Valvlog talk. A Valvlog talk is a little different than the free form. Free form, I can talk about whatever I want to talk about. And a Valvlog is a talk in which I'm focused on a single subject. And that subject today is an important one. It's infidelity. Now, it's a topic that's near and dear to my heart because I've both suffered it and I've unfortunately participated in it. And I say this as this is going to be both a confessional and also a warning and to some degree an admonition. And my hope here is to help people not make the same mistakes that I made and not make the same mistakes so many people make. Half of all marriages end in divorce, and roughly something very close to half of all married people are having affairs. I believe that's the statistic. It might even be higher than that. It might be higher for men and lower for women, but it's generally about half of all married people are screwing around on the person that they promised to be faithful to their entire lives. That is a unfortunate reality. When you think about just the idea of a vow, what does a vow mean, and what is it? You're taking a sacred thing. You're taking something that you're promising another human being that you will do, and crapping all over it. You're just crapping it all over, and it causes such immense suffering to everyone involved in that person's life and beyond. It reverberates out as a rock thrown into a pond. It just goes out and out and out. Numerous people are hurt by it. All kinds of people, even people you wouldn't even suspect, friends who are just acquaintances, will think, that's horrible that this person has been cheated on or this person is cheating, and it makes them upset. It upsets the whole community. It certainly does immense damage to children. It does immense damage to families, close family members to extended family members, and the participants themselves are, of course, devastated by it. And so I want to talk about infidelity, and I want to read a little bit to you about what I've written about it. And I've written extensively about infidelity in all my literary art forms. So I've written about it in poetry, I've written about it in short fiction, and I've written about it in nonfiction, and just about every kind of art form I use. It's also was the basis of my first novel. It is something that I feel is at the center of most of the social ills that we suffer. I mean, there's abortion, which has its hand in just about every kind of horrible thing. But if you start to look behind abortion, and you start to see infidelity's little dirty hand in a lot of that. So if we can't fix infidelity, we can't fix abortion. And if we can't fix abortion, we can't fix Western civilization. And if we can't fix Western civilization, that's the end. That's it. It's over. At the very best, you're going to deal with 1,000 years of darkness. And at the very worst, you're going to deal with total annihilation. And so, let's talk about infidelity. A little personal history said that I both experienced it and participated in it. And the experience part, my first wife cheated on me multiple times, almost from the time that we were married. It seems incredible to me, but this is what happened. She was absolutely a faithless person at that time in her life. I don't know if she still is, but at that time in her life, she was absolutely faithless. And she cheated on me before we were married, and so I was stupid enough to think that if we got married, it would get better. It did not. She cheated on me after we got married. She cheated on me many times. I don't know how many times. Only she would know that. Maybe even she doesn't know that. I don't think she has the memory anymore for that. But certainly by the time we were divorced, it had been at least, that I know of, 3 times. That I know of. There's probably more. So we were only married 2 years. So you put your head around that for a little bit. And what I experienced was a complete abject, total deflation of my ego. I walked into that relationship a confident young man who was leaving the army, but I had a lot of money saved. It was a lot of money to me at the time. It was about $12,000. I was going to go back to college. I was going to apply to the University of Florida. I was going to get a job, maybe at a post office, because I had experience doing postal work with the military. And by the time I left that relationship, I met her right prior to going to leaving the army, prior to going from Chicago to Florida. And I decided to take her with me because I fell in love with her. I thought she cheated on me there. And I thought, well, if I got her out of this situation, there's a lot of army guys around here, there's a lot of temptation, there's a lot of problems. She doesn't know about me, she's not secure about me, so if I get her out of here, things will be fine. And I got her there, and we started to set up our lives, and I kind of forgot about the whole school thing, because I was going to take care of my wife, and I was going to go get a job. I tried to get a job, couldn't get a job. And then, we had problems, and the minute we had problems, off she went. And so we weren't married. I thought, well, the reason she's flying all over the place is because she's insecure and she doesn't think that I love her enough. And so if I marry her, that'll solve that problem. Well, it didn't solve that problem. We still argued. We still had problems. And eventually she took her love to town. But by the time this 2-year relationship was over, this 2-year marriage was over, and she divorced me, and she actually drove down from Michigan with her new boyfriend, who she was pregnant with already. It seems amazing to me, but she was pregnant with another guy's kid while she was still married to me. I was still trying to salvage the marriage, even then, even as we were driving to get divorced, and even when we were driving away from getting divorced, I was still trying to salvage the marriage because I loved her so much, and I wanted to be totally. The idea of divorcing for me has always been anathema. The idea that you give up on a vow that's that sacred, and I would have never cheated on her in a million years. It would never even occurred to me to cheat on her. It wasn't until she was in another state that I even considered being with another woman. We were separated, and she had made clear that we would not be reuniting at any time or place or circumstance. And so I began to pay attention to other things, even somewhat romantically. It was hard for me to even contemplate that. And had I not been pursued by a very aggressive older woman, I don't think that I would have had anything to do with a romantic relationship for maybe years to come. But ultimately, that didn't work out. And so she left and she divorced me, and she went back to Michigan, and I got involved then with a married woman myself. That very aggressive older woman I talked about earlier. It's the kind of thing that happens when you're young and stupid, and you're thinking, well, somebody did it to me, and I'll do it to somebody else. I don't know that was my exact thinking, but I was certainly of the opinion that screw the world. It was done to me, and so therefore I guess it's okay to do it for others. I guess that's the kind of thinking of a immature young person, and that's the kind of thinking, unfortunately, that I had at the time. And so I went out and I had a relationship with a married woman, and that immediately crumbled that marriage. I tried not to make it crumble, that marriage. In fact, I told her not to do that, not to tell her husband and just to go back to her husband. But she was convinced that she was in love with me. I was the first one to bring her to climax in bed. I don't like bringing that up, but that's what happened. And she, she became enraptured by that, and totally, flew off the handle and left her husband and left her child there with him. And then, we had a off and on relationship of 4 years. But of course, that kind of thing, I got back in spades what I did to that guy, because she, here's the thing: if a woman cheats on you, cheats on her husband with you, that's a sign that this is not a good thing. It's not gonna go well. And eventually, of course, she cheated on me. She was with other men. She actually had me house sit her house one time, like watch her dogs and take them for walks, and stay in her house, and clean her house, and make sure that all the the stuff got done, and all the all the lights and everything was on, and didn't want to leave the place empty. And so I stood there, and while she was away, supposedly visiting her great aunts, but she was visiting some guys she met on the internet and sleeping with them. So that's what kind of sucker I was, and what, for a long time. And when I met my present wife, I had enough. I was not going to put up with it anymore from anyone. Period. It wasn't going to happen. Not from me, not from her, not at anyone at all. I was not going to start a relationship with somebody who was in a relationship at all. It wasn't going to happen. Well, she wasn't in that. She wasn't in a relationship at the moment. But I told her straight up. I said, listen, you and I will be fine until such time as you cheat on me. Even with a kiss. Even with a kiss. If you even kiss a guy, we're done. We are done. We're over. It's not going to go on any longer. It's through. I'll walk. Now, I had probably known this woman several hours when I said this. Literally, I mean, we knew each other online for a while. We were, she was in the small press, and she came upon my poems, and she liked them, and she wrote me a letter, and we passed back letters back and forth, and then she drove down to meet me, and then we were deciding on whether I would go back to Washington with her, and I said, I laid this on her, and I'm like, I'm not going to deal with it. I'm just not going to deal with infidelity anymore. And if you want to be, if you want to have that kind of relationship, if you want to deal with infidelity, and you want to have that kind of stuff, you want somebody waiting at the window for you, that's not going to be me. Because the minute you do it, I'm gone. It's done. It's over. And she's like, okay, well, the same applies to you. I'm like, of course it does. Of course it does. I would never even begin to ask something from you that does not also apply to me. And so she agreed to it, which was good, because you fear that you're coming across a little obsessive, but I was really not a possessive kind of guy. I'm not a, where were you? Tell me where you were. I'm not that kind of guy. That's not me. But I have experienced so much in the way of infidelity up to that point that I just know what it means. I know what it means to a relationship. I know what it does to a person's soul. And it doesn't matter who you are in that triumvirate, in that triangle of despair. You could be the husband, or the mistress, or the wife. It doesn't matter. Or the wife, or the jack off home wrecker, or the husband. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter who you are in that thing, because your life is going to get destroyed one way or another, or at least your life is going to be unhappy because of it. If you're dealing with it from a perspective of love, or if you're dealing with it from a perspective of wanting to have some kind of real relationship in the world. I mean, if you're just a horn dog and you're going out there and you're like, yeah, I screwed this guy's wife and then I left her, and if you're that guy, I guess you'll eventually pay for that, but it doesn't happen immediately in that case. In that case, you just destroyed two people's lives and walked away like a punk. I have no respect for you as an individual, but you might not end up destroyed. But generally speaking, if you're the person who has emotions and has hopes and dreams of a relationship, and you entered into a relationship that was based on some kind of spiritual bonding, then infidelity is the utmost betrayal of that. It is the utmost betrayal. It is the worst betrayal, next to patricide or matricide, and to some degree abortion. It is the worst betrayal a person can do, ever. To cheat on your spouse is literally probably the most despicable act that any human being can do to another human being, short of murder and rape. It is absolutely soul-crushing. It's destructive to that person in a way that almost nothing else is, because it goes to the very core of who they are. It goes to the very core of their humanity and their ego and everything, their family and their past and their future and all the things that they dreamed for themselves and all the things that they will dream for themselves. If you can do that to another human being, there is something seriously screwed up with you. And you better check that very quickly, or you're going to go in a really, really awful place. And so I wanted to read to you this short little passage that I wrote in an essay a couple of years back. And I believe that this is absolutely, I've never changed my mind about this. I believe it is totally true. So let me read it, and then I'll talk about it a little bit. This one point in this larger essay. A romantic relationship cannot survive infidelity. When I say it can't survive, I mean just that. It cannot. It doesn't matter how much you work at it over the coming months and years. It doesn't matter if you go to marriage counselors, or promise never to do it again, or buy your wife, like Kobe Bryant, a 60-carat diamond. The romantic relationship cannot survive. The marriage can survive, perhaps, and you can have sex. You can still like each other and be friendly and all that. There will be days when you might think things are back to the way they were, but then he will come home late, or she will hug a friend too closely, and then there's a reason the Bible commands you never commit adultery. It isn't God on some kind of monogamous power trip. It's because adultery is a cause of human misery. It is the murderer of innocence. And it doesn't matter who is doing the infidelity, the husband, the wife, and even the interloper. All pay the price. All suffer the same shame. If a thief pays for his theft by becoming a thief, as Epictetus says, then the adulterer pays for his or her crime by becoming a lowly cheat. There's a scene in the movie Excalibur where Arthur is kneeling by Lancelot as the greatest knight who ever lived dies. Earlier, when Arthur catches Lancelot and Guinevere in a tryst, Lancelot stabs himself through the side. Years later, Lancelot returns to help Arthur in battle. Lancelot takes a blow in the battle and, dying, tells his king, "It is the old wound. It never healed." That's infidelity. It never heals. You never become whole or innocent again. You are Adam and Eve who have bitten from the apple, have shamed each other before each other and God, and have been tossed from heaven. You cannot enter paradise again, not with each other, not ever. And you must now walk the scorched earth and win every smile by clawing in the dirt and the sweat of your brow. That's the reality of it. That's what you must know when you decide to step out. Is it worth it? Is it really? And so I want to get into this idea that once you cheat, it's over. All the innocence, all the vow, all the promises, the beautiful wedding, all that goes away. It all goes away. It all kind of dies right there on the vine. And what is left, what remains, is more cynical and cold. And I don't think you can recover from it. Not really. Like I said in the thing, you can have a marriage, and maybe you should. If you have kids and you have, financial obligations and all that. But you're never going to go back to that place you were before. That happy place where you looked at each other and you thought, you and me forever. And nothing will ever come between us. That'll never be there again. That innocence will be gone. And you should know that. You should absolutely know that before you decide that this tryst, this momentary pleasure, is going to happen. You're going to let it happen. And you should know that if you're the interloper, that you're doing this to somebody. That you're putting your own desires ahead of so many people. It's not just the wife and it's not just the husband. The children suffer terribly. Everybody suffers. And you're going to suffer too. And you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? There are many, many people in the world. There are many men in the world. I don't believe in soulmates. I just don't. I think that you can be happy with almost anyone. Really, I do believe that. You can be happy with almost anyone as long as they are decent to you and they're decent to themselves and they're decent to the world. You can be happy with almost anyone. You put all these kinds of garbage obstacles up between you and love. And yeah, it might seem like there's only one or two people in the world that can satisfy those needs. But if you don't put those blocks up, if you start to see people for who they are, and start to look beyond what they look like, or what they how much money they're making, or whatever it is that you're how big her breasts are, whatever it is that you've hung yourself up on, you look past that, you start to see there are many people who are absolutely wonderful, and you can have a wonderful life with them, and you can have a wonderful marriage with them. But if you cheat on anyone, if it doesn't matter who it is, if you cheat, that relationship, I believe, as far as that innocence that we enter a relationship into, when we step into it, it's gone, and it can't come back. It just doesn't. It won't ever come back. And you have to recognize that. You have to say to yourself, is that worth it? Am I willing to become a person who doesn't keep his vows, who's willing to hurt everybody I know and love, including myself, so that I can do this thing that is probably just an infatuation? It's probably just something that will last a short amount of time, and then, like all other relationships, it'll spike, and then it'll fade, and you'll say, all of a sudden you'll start to see that varicose vein, or you'll start to see that little flaw, the way she doesn't want to get out of bed in the morning, or whatever else annoys you. And ultimately you'll see that this isn't, all of a sudden your wife or your husband will look good again, and you'll say, why the heck did I do that? But it's too late. It's too late. You screwed up, and it's done. It's done. You can't go back. Even if the wife takes you back, even if the husband takes you back, it doesn't matter. It's done. There will always be suspicion. There will always be wonder. There will always be terrible hurt, and a wall between you. There'll be this wall, and sometimes that wall will be thick, and sometimes it'll be thin, but it'll always be there forever. And I cannot imagine cheating on my wife. I just can't imagine it. She's been so good to me for so long that the idea of cheating on her is, for me, horrific. It would destroy not just our marriage, and not just the way people see me, and not just, it would hurt my daughter, it would cripple my daughter. It would hurt her parents, who have taken me in almost as a son. It would hurt all kinds of people. Not only would it do that, though, but it would challenge the very way I look at myself as a good person, as a decent person, as a man who keeps his promises, as a man who stands for what's right, as a man who repays his debts, and who doesn't take for granted the things that are important to him. It would crush all of that. And then on top of it, you throw all that on top of it, and those are the main reasons why I wouldn't do it. It would absolutely destroy me financially. All the great life that I have, and I have a great life. I have a wonderful life. I get to do pretty much whatever I want to do. I get to do what I want creatively. I get to do what I want throughout the day. And it's all right there. I'm not a young man anymore either. I'm about to turn 50. Just don't walk out into the world at 50 and say, well, I'm ready to tackle you again. That's another thing. If you've been with a woman for 20 years or 30 years, you're not going to build that life with somebody else. You can't. You don't have the time. And even if you did have the time, even if I have another 30 years, those 30 years are not the same 30 years. They're very different years. They're declining years. And so the idea that I would just run off with some 27-year-old or whatever and start over, it's just not going to happen. You can't do it. It's not something you can even accomplish, even if you want to. I mean, if my wife died, I guess I could try in a way to maybe be with. I don't think I would, but you could at least conceivably do that, because you're not hurting anybody. You're not cheating on somebody. You're not betraying anybody or changing your basic personality. So you have a chance at least there at like some kind of semblance of what you built with this person. But the real reality is that you can't really have that relationship with anybody else. I cannot have the relationship I had with my wife with anybody else, because nobody else, no other woman knew me in my 20s and 30s and 40s. Only she did. And only she has that part of my life. And to go off with somebody else, I can't share that with them. Those memories can't be built up with that person. You would lose all that. All the little jokes, all the little side venues, all the little places where you ate or you had a memory, or just something that a little nickname, or this person knows what you like, or they know what really bothers you. Can't build that. Or if you do build it, you build it up to the point where you're about to die, and then you die. it's not a winning deal. It's not a winning deal at all. When my suggestion is not to cheat. I will not cheat on my wife to the point where if I even suspect that a woman is interested in cheating or interested in me romantically, that doesn't happen too often anymore. I gain a lot of weight, and I don't look as good as I used to do. A lot of gray going on, but even if I did, even if that, and I don't come across a lot of women either, because I'm a loner and do writing and do this kind of stuff, and very study. But if I came across a woman who wanted to have an affair with me, I would run. I would like, I'd try to say something polite and then run. I would be like booking, like try to get the hell out the door. It'd be like poison to me. It'd be like saying to me, I have Ebola. Would you like to come join me? And I'd be like, oh no, I am gone. I'm out of here. Sorry. I hope you enjoy your Ebola, because I'm not sharing that with you. I'm just not doing it, because to do that would be to sacrifice my entire life, to turn out all my joy, and to put misery in the hearts of the people I love most. That's not a way to live. That's no way to go about your business. Don't do it. If you're a young person listening to this and you're tempted, don't do it. Trust me on this. It's, if you ever loved your wife at all, if you ever loved her, find that love again rather than step out. Be grateful. Find the gratitude. Find the thing that made you fall in love with her in the first place, and then embrace that again. And if you can't find that again, then go do something else. Buy a video game machine and play that. Buy a car and drive that. Do something innocent. Do something that won't destroy you. Go for a walk. Whatever it is. Whatever it takes. Don't destroy it. Don't kick yourself out of heaven. Don't be ejected from paradise. The paradise of the love that you built with this person. Anyway, this is Jim Valvis talking about these things. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share this talk. And as always, thank you for listening, and God bless you.